everyone. It is Thursday evening, and yes, I started about 1 minute early. But what
And cut Amy off again.
we love Amy, but sometimes,
Completely mid-sentence. Completely mid-sentence.
but sometimes I do have to do that for CJ too.
I'll own it. He does. It's all good.
Well, I did get my Oculus in. I just haven't really had time to try it yet, which is sad. But on the good news, and I know a lot of y'all have been keeping up with everything. One of the things is I have to say I promised my wife that I would quit smoking. So I had to do maintenance on my vehicle today. So I got a new vehicle to get rid of the smoke smell, and there's no smoking in this vehicle.
Nice. Well
So
done.
and I didn't put anything down, and it just raised my payments up a little bit. I had equity in the vehicle, so I'm happy about that.
Proud of you. Well done.
Good job.
Now, if I can just do it completely. And the sad thing is I'm allergic to the patches. The mints make me sick, and they don't carry the pills anymore. So there's no Chantix anymore. So it's basically going to be cold turkey for me from this point on.
Here's
So
what you could do.
lollipops.
Here's what you could do, Greg. Every time that you think about smoking, call Amy, and I'll just give you hell for it. Where you're just like, this is not worth it, and then you won't want to have one. And you can call me 500 times a day, man. I have no problem doing that.
So then he's going to turn around and become an alcoholic, is what you're
No,
saying.
I'm not. I promise. I will not drive you to drink, man. I promise.
Actually,
My
no.
husband does that all the time.
Because I made a promise, probably oh my God, I can't even think how long that it was. 92. I made a promise that I would never drink again, and I haven't had a drink since.
Well,
Well
that
done.
would be almost 30 years ago because I was born in 92 and I will be 30 this year.
So I
Good
figure
job.
if I can do this, if I can do that, I can do this.
I've heard people say if they suck on lollipops, it's
Yeah.
kind of the same idea and it helps. So I don't know. Just offering it. I've never done it. So
Well, it's going to come up, and I know acupuncture worked for you, but I think you had a little bit more motivation than that. That's my dad, everybody.
we met him at Texas Ren Fest. Hi, Mike.
But like I said, that's just one of the main things I'm working on, and I have to say, the car was actually an upgrade. So, hey, heated seats even. Like,
More room for more stuff
more
to take to
room.
Comic Cons and stuff.
Yep.
Nice.
So, like I said, I'm excited about that. And like I said, I also got the Oculus. I haven't really had a chance to try it out yet, but I am looking forward to that.
San
I actually
Angelo.
I got a roller coaster game that was free, so
Oh, nice.
I'm happy.
There you
Now,
go.
Now, if I can just get fit to do those boxing games.
As long as your sons keep shorting out, you'll win every time. It's all good.
Yeah. But anyway, our special guest today is, I should have asked how to pronounce the last name before it came on. I'm just going to say Melanie. And she did the voice of Lucy van Pelt from the Peanuts, or as you all might know, Charlie Brown. And I believe that was the specials back in the 70s, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Lucy was my favorite. She was snarky, but she was my favorite. That's why I liked her. And I grew up on Peanuts. So, Melanie, I love you. Good job. You made me the person I am today because of Lucy. Hair color and all. It's all good.
That's right. And my last name is Kohn, like ice cream cone.
Okay, Kohn. Okay. I didn't want to say Con.
Well, a lot of people do because it's spelled like John with a K. Right.
Well, see, they do. That was going completely different. I was thinking Wrath of Khan was Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
I like ice cream cone.
Yes, ice cream cone. That's a pretty cool way to do that. So
she's sweet.
I'll remember
I like
that
ice cream
now.
Cone. It's all good.
But one of the things I'd like to ask is because I know the setups were completely different from then and now, because you probably most likely had to go to a studio to record instead of doing anything from home.
Yes. So back then they did the voices first and they matched the animation up and they drew it frame by frame.
Wow.
So it took 6 months to
Wow.
make a 22, a half hour special, which was really 22 minutes of the show. It took 6 months. And yes, we went into the studio separately. All the kids went in separately.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
so they just layer. So it wasn't even like a conversation. If there were conversations, you would have a conversation with yourself.
No, actually, we'd have the conversation with the director, Bill Melendez.
Uh-huh.
And he would do the other part. And then we would do our lines like 3 words at a time. That's why it sounds so choppy.
Huh. That's interesting. Why? No,
Probably
seriously,
because
why?
I'm guessing because we were so young that was like pretty much what we could handle.
Mm.
And then they just put it together and then they do the animation to fit.
So,
But it also made us sound like kids, like kids really sound.
true. Now, did you have the headset where were you able to hear the other voices as you were going through the storyline?
No, because as I said, Bill Melendez would do the other line, whoever we were talking to. So we were actually having a conversation. We were just having it with him instead of another character, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
So did you kids ever get together? To like,
No, I don't recall ever getting together. I did meet some of the people, and I've actually reconnected with a few of them on Facebook. Now, my sister voiced Lucy before I did, so of course I know her. And we went to high school with one of the Charlie Browns, and another Charlie Brown went to our school for part of the time.
oh, cool.
And I met him. I actually met him in church. It was just, I honestly don't remember how it came up, how the subject came up of, that we were both in Peanuts. And, yeah, I think that was it. I've met, the first Lucy, I met her when I was living in Bellingham, Washington. Tracy Stratford, I met her, I was working radio and one of my clients told me that she lived there. I had no idea. So I got to meet her, which is really cool.
Now, I know one thing that everybody's probably wondering, did you ever get to meet Charles Schultz?
I didn't. My sister did.
Hmm.
I, of course, worked with Bill Melendez, the director, and Lee Mendelson, the producer. But I never actually met Charles Schultz. We lived probably 30 miles south of where he lived in the ice skating rink and now the museum.
Wow.
Nice.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess as a kid, I always imagined it kind of like Mickey Mouse Club, where you guys always got together. I don't know why.
Well,
I thought
there
that
is
must be really cool to
picture.
work that way.
Yeah, and they might have started out like that. I think they did because there's a picture of the first, the Christmas special with Peter Robbins and the other characters. I just know him because I know he's touring as well. And there's a picture of the 4 of them with their mics hanging down and they're all standing in the same room or the studio. And I don't know. Maybe they started out like that and they decided to change it.
Well, like I said, I definitely know the difference between those studios nowadays. I mean, you can do them from home nowadays.
Right.
Have you thought of doing anything else new?
People ask me that all the time, and I have to come up with a good answer. I really just had regular jobs throughout my life. I raised, I had 3 kids, raised them, and kind of lived a quote normal working life. And I got into radio the first time around in 1990, and then the second time around 2014, and I really enjoyed that. So I ended up working, I would write my clients' ads, and then I would voice most of them. So I kind of got back into it in that way, and eventually, I would like to do it again. This kind of came about strangely in this year, and so I started doing this, and I really enjoy it because I love meeting people. I love talking to people, and it's just so much fun. I'm really enjoying it.
Now, what? Let's ask how many conventions you've been to, because I know you're pretty new to the convention scene,
Yes.
and any that you're able to tell us that you're going to, the past ones that you've been to.
So far I have been to Gulf Coast Collectors Convention in Houston, and I've been to Dallas Comic Show twice, and I've been to several comic book stores. I just call them and ask them if I can come in, and they're like, sure. So I set myself up for a few hours. I sell merchandise along with my 8x10s. I have a table full of merchandise because there's so much peanut stuff out there. So I have new stuff, vintage stuff. It's really cool. I have myself set up. I'm going to Albuquerque next weekend, and I'm doing Cowtown. I'll be doing Cowtown at the end of the month, and I'll be going to in the near future, Tennessee, Georgia, possibly New Jersey. And I was also in Florida. That was the other one. I knew there was another one.
So you just posted on, I think it was Facebook, a picture of you at like doing a signing. Where was that? Like you just posted like today, I think. Today or yesterday, maybe?
Oh, I'm not sure. When I went to Dallas a few weeks ago or a couple weeks ago, I went to a comic book store there.
That might have been it.
Yeah, it might have been that. There was a video. Somebody did a video there, so that might have been that one.
Now, I know you just did one, 3-4 weeks ago in Conroe I'm trying to think of the name of the place. It was one of the restaurants out there. I think
yes, thank you. I went. So this was interesting. I just noticed the Peanuts characters on Raising Cane's Chicken. So I called the marketing person and I said, hey, you want to set something up? So she said, yeah, we're going to have Santa come in. So why don't you come in and do a signing? So yeah, I had that too. Yeah, that was great. I loved it.
That would definitely be fun.
So now, is there anything that you have from your Peanuts time of something that nobody else has? Like, is there something, you know what I mean? Sometimes when an actor to actress is in a show, sometimes they're able to take away like one thing.
I do. And I don't know where it is offhand, but I know I still have it. I have a script for, I did some bread commercials, and I don't put that on my credits because it was, bread commercials that were, the commercials were only run in California. And I believe it was called Weber's Bread. So I have a script somewhere, and it has the little, it shows the cartoon and then it has the lines on it. And we used to have a couple of cells when I was a kid hanging on the wall, I remember. Mm-hmm. And I don't have those. And I don't know if my family has those. I really have no idea. Ooh. I know.
Especially since both you and your sister were Lucy. That would be very cool to have.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely be cool to have. I'm trying to think. I know, like you just asked about the sales or said about those. And another thing I'd like to say is because you just said another Comic-Con posted that and you're running with, or they were running with it, is you actually had an uncredited scene. And like I said, I definitely want a picture of this signed, an uncredited scene in The Godfather.
Like, wow.
You think you can get Diane Keaton to sign it too?
I might call.
That was my very first crush. Not her, Al Pacino. I was seven years old, and what happened was my sister and I got this job through the union, and my sister, I don't know if you can see her as well. She was in the playground, and somehow some of the kids got to walk with Diane Keaton, and they had us each. We took turns, and there were probably about 8 of us, and they picked the one where I was holding her hand to be in the movie. And it was the scene towards the end when Michael Corleone, he comes back, and she's the school teacher, and he comes back, and she sees him, and she's like, she kind of ushers me back to bring the kids back to the playground because she wants to talk to him, of course. And that was actually filmed in the town where I grew up, in north of San Francisco. It was supposed to be New England, and they decided to film it in this little town because it looked like New England. So it's kind of interesting.
Let's see, just north of San Francisco. I know it's not Marin.
So when you do these jobs, just a curiosity question, do you get autographs from like the bigger names?
You mean now in conventions?
No, when you were doing the jobs as a child.
Oh, I didn't even think to. I wish my parents had, but I didn't even think to. I was just a little kid. I was just like, gaga over Al Pacino.
I didn't know. Sometimes
thing.
Parents will do that for the kids, so I didn't know if they had done that for you.
No, I don't think so. My dad was in advertising, so he met a lot of famous people, and I think he probably didn't think it was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good memories. Just like my dad just said, that's a very cool memory to have. And I mean, stuff like that is just, to me, just awe-inspiring. It makes me want to go do something.
Well, you are doing something. You have a podcast.
Well, we meet lots of people.
I meant like doing the voice acting and getting the chance.
I don't know how you're going to dig yourself out of that one, Greg. I mean, it's just.
I know. I'm done for.
You just kind of.
Okay,
I have a question though, and maybe you mentioned it. I don't know, but I would like to know, how did you get into voice acting, and how did you I know you said your sister was originally Lucy, and then you were also. So is it something that you guys share? How did you both kind of get into it?
Well, my father, as I said, my father was in advertising, and he signed us up with a casting agency in San Francisco. And my sister auditioned with a bunch of little girls, and she got the job. And what happens is girls' voices change at about 12 years old. So and in this, I don't know if this works the same way with other cartoons, and I know a lot of cartoons are voiced by adults, but they don't tell you when you retire. So one day they called the house, and they were calling about me, not her. So she was about 12 or turning 12. And so they had me go in and audition. So I didn't have to audition against a bunch of kids. I went in and I auditioned for Sally and Lucy. And they said, your voice is too low for Sally and too high for Lucy. Because I was right in between. I was 9 or turning 10 years old. And so they said, well, your voice quality is so similar to your sister's that we're going to let you work into Lucy. And that's how I became the longest running Lucy, because I started a little bit early, and I got to do 2 full years, and then came back and did a movie.
Nice.
Very nice.
If that answers your question.
It does. Thank you. It does. It does. So I guess, I mean, what other avenues have you gone down? I know that you said that you raised your kids and you lived a normal life. So if you wanted to get back into it now, what's something that you would want to do? What avenue, besides like in voice acting, what avenue would you want to go down now?
Well, I have thought about it a lot, and I've listened to myself, when I voiced radio ads, and I really think that for the most part, for some reason, I think my voice still sounds kind of young, and I would probably want to do something where I was younger, whether it was a cartoon voice or something where I was younger. I don't know that I would be good at narrating, like doing the book narrating, because
I was about to ask about that.
Yeah, I know my sister's done that, and I think our voices are still similar, but I think hers is a little more mature than mine.
Gotcha.
Definitely. I can see how that would be. And we've talked to many different people, and we've actually asked about that. And I mean, there's some people that were singers that are like, no, I'm not even going to do books. And there's other actors like, no, I don't think I could do a narration of a book, but they would like to go back into maybe try to find something into voice acting. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
we get a lot of different responses on the books. So, and I think narrating a book would be tough, especially trying to do all the voices at the same time.
I love doing different voices. When I read to my kids when they were growing up, I did all the different voices until they got old enough to where it just irritated them. And they were like, okay, stop with the voices. But I love doing that. It's just that I haven't really, I haven't done it professionally, except like I said, in ads. But I feel, I guess I'm my own worst critic, which I believe happens with a lot of people, to where, maybe other people would say, oh yeah, your voice would be good for narration, but I think it would be more well suited for something else, something with a younger sound.
So we probably won't be hearing you reading The Mists of Avalon anytime soon.
Not this year anyway.
Now, have you thought about commercials? Like, I know Geico and Progressive, they're all starting to do some of the voices now with their commercials. Have you thought about going back into commercials like that?
Well, it's interesting because I've been interviewed several times since I started doing this, and now it's been almost a year that I got into this whole thing, and I've talked to so many people now that it's something that maybe I will. I'm getting so into doing the conventions, but now that I'm meeting so many people in the industry, maybe that is an avenue I'll go down. It's just it's all really kind of happening all at once, so I haven't had a lot of time to think.
It all happens pretty fast out especially in the convention world, because there's conventions almost every weekend.
Yes. And I've got myself booked up sometimes every week. It's more every other week for the first part of the year. And it's like, oh, how did that happen? It just kind of, it happens fast.
Like I said before we even started, I don't know how you do it. It's too people-y. Like, I love my Comic Cons, but I gotta have like a 2 to 3 week break in between. If I have any that are right after the other, then I just shut down for 2 or 3 weeks afterwards.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Definitely. I love interacting with people. I absolutely love it. It's more, it's mentally and physically exhausting, I think, for me, since I'm so old.
I'm gonna be 50 this year, and it's mentally exhausting for me too. So
Yeah,
it really is. It's it takes a lot. The traveling in itself takes a lot out of you, and being around the people, I love it. But then when I'm done, when it's time to go back to the hotel, it's like, ooh, I'm just completely drained. My husband is like, hey, let's go out. And I'm like, no, I'm going to get my jammies and get in bed and watch TV.
Leave me alone. You go play.
Now, my husband's your age. So that, he's a youngin'. So
that just makes me feel so good. Amy should feel blessed right now.
For real.
Yeah, but you were saying about how old you are. I'm like, you were born the same year as my oldest son.
1972.
Yep, 72. Same with me. I'll be 50 in April.
That is an awesome year. I'm just saying.
I feel like I'm not going to contribute to this conversation because I'm pretty sure no one cares right now about anything that I have to say in terms of age. So I'm going to put the fifth and just mute myself. Okay? You don't have to mute me, Greg. I'm going to mute myself. Okay.
Oh,
but you can relate to my son. Like I relate to my oldest son, and you were born in the same year.
Yes. I always have said, and I know I probably will get hate for this, but my husband is younger than I am. So I always say in my household, the coolest people are born in 92 because, that's when I was born. I'm the oldest in my household. So, I just your son is awesome because he was born in 92. Like,
Yeah.
we were born. So, yes, absolutely.
What month were you born?
I was born in June.
Oh my gosh, so was he.
Oh my
Uh-oh.
gosh. See, even
June's
better.
an awesome month. I was
What
born in
date?
June.
What date was he born?
June 2nd.
Oh man. Okay. I was born the 30th. I was supposed to come on the 17th and I didn't. I came on the 30th. So then I got married on the 17th. So it's a whole thing. Yeah, it's a whole thing. So
Easy for
that's
me to
cool.
remember.
Look at that. I just never know.
The problems with having a birthday in the first part of June is it always ran into the end of school. And so sometimes it got lost in there because I was a June baby and it was the beginning part of June. And it was very frustrating, especially around like graduations. Because
Yeah.
June just didn't exist. It's like, okay, it's another birthday. That sucks.
I'm April, so.
Hey,
But yeah,
one
the
of my
plus
sisters is
two-
April.
The plus to a June birthday is December, you got winter clothes, and in the summer or in June, you got summer clothes. So you always got new clothes.
Well,
through
that's
the
a good
year.
thing.
Yeah, it was great. My wardrobe was always updated. So
Nice. Nice. I like it.
So April what?
April 17th.
One of my kids, my youngest is April 4th.
Wow. See, and my number 2 sister is April 2nd. So
we're like all connected birthday wise.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty cool.
and then my number 3 sisters, it's funny, I have to number my sisters, but I have 3. So my number 3 sister is May 2nd. It's a year, it's literally 13 months after my number 2 sister. And my kids are 13 months apart like they are. So it's
Oh, wow. Well,
Yeah.
I got something for you. I have a sister. I call her my sister, but she's my half sister, and she's 27 years younger than I am.
okay.
Everybody's like, what?
I'm not. Let's see. I think I was 16 when my brother was born, and half brother. So I can understand that
remember.
completely.
Lydia and I are 7 years, and then Jace is, I think, 5 years older than her. So 12, 13 or 14 years top to bottom on ours.
Oh, we're going to do a math show now.
I think I suck at math, so
Yeah,
I'm
not
probably
even-
wrong. Math is not
I'm
my
good.
thing.
I'm
Well-
good. My oldest sister is 7 years older than I am, and then it's 5 and 4 years. So I'm
The
good.
only
I
reason-
can't.
The only reason
contribute.
that I remember that Lydia is 7 years older is because she and my husband were born the same year. That's the only way I know that.
Well, my sister, my Lucy sister, is 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, and 2 days older than I am.
Oh, wow.
My
Oh, wow.
goodness.
And she just had a birthday on January 4th.
Yeah.
So if you can figure out when my birthday is from that, you win the prize.
That's math. Why you gotta make me do math? Stop it. Stop it.
That's
Hey.
November. I'm pretty sure
Backwards
that's
or
November.
forward?
No, it's not November. It goes the other way.
That's what I'm
Oh,
like
the other
thinking.
way.
I'm like March.
Yeah, it's March.
March. 2 years would be March 8th.
2 days.
No,
2 years.
2 years.
No, you
2
said 2
years would be
years
March
and
4th.
2
Yeah. Oh,
weeks.
2 weeks.
2
2
weeks
weeks.
and 2 days, right?
Okay, so 2 weeks would
16
be
days.
14, 15, 16,
18.
17, 18. 18.
And 2
March
days.
18th.
It's the 20th of March.
Yes.
There we
I
go.
have a calendar, guys.
I know. I was just going to ask you that.
Suck at math. I will
Cheater.
own
I
that
have
Cheater.
like
any day.
March.
That's
and then
why
2
I have
weeks, 2
super
days.
hubby. My
Like-
super hubby, he used to be able to do like the multiplications with four numbers. Numbers. He could do them like that, like a
Oh,
calculator.
wow.
And so I suck at math. I'm like, I'll take grammar, you take math, we're good.
Gotta love these math conversations.
I just
Let's
it's
get
kind
down
of
to the
like
math.
it's kind of like a word problem to me is if a train is coming from the east and one is going west and there's a pancake shop in the middle, what time will the bell ring in the high school? That's a math problem to me. I'm just like, what?
3 p.m. Get out.
Which class period? You know, what are you talking about? I have no idea.
Math is.
That's math in me is not good.
We don't want to talk about math on this show.
No.
Definitely
My
not.
sister tried getting me to do payroll for Texas Sisters Press, and I'm just like, you don't want me to do that. That's not going to
Hey,
end well.
no, I can do those numbers. I can do numbers that
Nope.
are all about money, and I can do those. But when it comes to anything else, it's like, no.
But here's another thing, though. I was a insurance agent and an adjuster. So if you give me an insurance policy, I can tell you backwards and forwards which ones are the better ones. But do not give me anything math because it's Chinese to me.
My sister does that right now. I don't understand any of it. I just tell her to pick one for me. It sounds good.
Yeah. Well, it's like we had tornadoes hit our area, and somebody had told friends of ours, because there were trees down everywhere, and they told them that if they cleared the trees, they would get reimbursed for it. I said, no, you're going to get reimbursed for 3 feet off of either side of the driveway or 3 feet off of any structure. Otherwise, you're paying for it out of your pocket. Guess who was right?
Well, now I want to go back to a different subject here because we've talked about doing the voice acting and the acting and all that. Have you thought about writing a book about everything that you've been in, especially since we have 2 authors here? Have you thought about writing a book about everything that you've done?
You know, so for a long time, people said, you need to be doing this. You need to be doing this. And I finally did it. And then they said, you need to be doing this. You need to be doing this. And then I finally did it. And for years and years, people have been telling me I need to write a book. And I do write. And I'm not going to say I'm any. Are you 2 of you are authors?
Yes. 2 of us are authors.
Wow. Well, yeah, I have a lot more to write about than just that. You know, I should write a memoir.
There you go. I give people a ton of credit who do those. I can't. I put my stories into fiction.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely not going to say you have to, but I'm just going to say it's good. It's a good thing to think about. Don't.
Yeah.
Writing a book?
Yeah, I don't want to force anybody and say
Amy
do
needs
it, do
to
it,
write
do
a
it.
book.
Do it.
And
I
she
think
needs
you
to
should.
write it. Hot Mess Express.
It should be advised, not forced saying do it.
I'll bring you comfort because I hang out with these people that write all the time. Okay. And I haven't written a book at all. I work with authors, but I haven't written a book. I live through them. Now, if it was like an audio book, I'll do it. I could talk all day and I could emphasize certain things, but I can't do that in writing. It just, audio anyways, I'm animated. I talk with my hands and stuff. So it just would be entertaining. But a book, yes, I agree with Greg. It's something to consider writing, down the road, or having a ghostwriter or doing it verbally and they transcribe it kind of thing. It's always good to show, I don't know, cool things. You've lived a pretty awesome life. So I think a memoir is perfect. Yes, I'm 100% on board. But don't feel bad because I hang out with these people all the time and a ton of people that write books. And then every day they're like, you should write a book. I'm like, y'all don't understand. I should just do an audio book because grammar and words just aren't my thing. What is the saying? I say stuff before I actually think about it sometimes. And then, I would type it. It wouldn't make sense. It's not worth it. It wouldn't be worth it to me, but I think y'all would be great. Yes. I agree.
Well, it's interesting because somebody that I went to high school with that I'm friends with on Facebook, she just got published. And it's like, well, shoot, she's my age. And so, I have thought about it and thought about it more lately because, I see her and she's going on tour with her book signings. And it's like, wow, it's never too late.
No, it's never
No,
too
we
late.
have some for Texas Sisters Press. We have one gentleman who's 75. We have another lady who's probably in her 80s, I think. So yeah, it's never too late. Go for it. We had one gentleman who actually he is 83, I think. And he's at the beginning stages of Alzheimer's. And so right before that point, he did this memoir, this massive book. It's 800 pages. But
wow.
It's of his life as a missionary. And so he uses that as well as basically a concordance sort of thing. But that's his memory and that's his contribution that can be never taken away from him because it's in print. and that's the
Right.
beauty behind a book. So like my stories have bits and pieces of my life in it. I won't ever tell anybody which ones are which, but they're in there, and I know that those stories and my name and my life is forever going to be in the literary world. And that's the beauty behind being an author, is it's always going to be there.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So you just inserted part of like real life into your fiction.
Yep. I tell
Oh,
people some of it's made up and some of it's not, and I'm not telling you which one's which. But it's
oh,
funny
that's
because some
great.
of the reviews are like, "Oh, that'll never happen." I'm like, "No, actually, that one's the real one." So
Well, I do want to let people know. Feel free to ask any questions that we may not have asked that you might be interested in, because I mean,
how
that's
about
what
how
we're
do they
here for.
find Melanie online?
Well, if you Google Melanie Kohn, you're going to find every site that you can imagine that's just going to tell you which shows and which movie I was in. But my Facebook is Melanie Kohn, and that's Kohn,
Mhm.
voice artist for Lucy Van Pelt. And I put all my information on there. I put all my upcoming events, and I post a lot of pictures on there. And I started out, when I started out, I just, told some little stories and put some pictures up of my sister and me, and some cartoons, Peanuts cartoons. And now it's a lot of it, most of it is my events. So give it a like.
What about like a blog? I could
Um,
see you writing like a blog, the little short snippets of like, the Diane Keaton story. Just like little, I could see you doing something like that.
yeah, it's funny because I never really talked about it much, and now I guess, of course, it's one of the, if not the best movie of all time, The
Godfather, yeah,
Godfather.
it's up
Yeah,
there. It's up there
it's
pretty high.
definitely up there.
Yeah,
One of my most favorite movies, honestly, is
it's
The
a
Godfather.
great. Well, all the stars. I mean, oh, it's crazy. But when it came out, my parents took us to see it, my sister and me, and it was a little bit much for me at that age, being so young. But one story that I got from my grandmother wanted to see it, and she normally wouldn't see a movie like that, but she went to see it because she, she wanted to catch us in it. And right at that little 5 or 10 second point when you could see me, the lady in front of her stood up to go to the restroom, and she missed it.
Oh
So
no.
that was the story, the story that went
Uh,
through the family for years.
were you sitting there going, "Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's me and that's Diane"? And
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. And then the same thing with the Peanuts, hearing my voice. And then, when my kids were growing up, I would play the shows for them, and I'd say, "That's mommy." They just look
I
at
know
me
we
like,
watched for Comic Conroe, we watched the movie with Kevin Sorbo, and Kevin Sorbo was literally right next to us, and he would tell us like little things that happened during the filming, and that was just like the most wild thing ever. I can't imagine, you know, you years later watching the Peanuts going, "I remember what happened on that day," or "This happened on that day."
I do remember the filming, that one scene, which was a very short scene. It took all day. And I remember they had this catered lunch that was just like, I mean, this was like a 7-year-old looking at tables and tables of every kind of food you can imagine.
Heaven,
And
the angels saying, "Oh, hallelujah."
and then they had the wardrobe where, they had, I don't know who picked my mother probably picked out what I was going to wear, or somebody picked it out. I didn't. But yeah, I do remember. It's interesting that you say that, because I was so young and I do remember these things. I do remember that there were times when my mother couldn't drive me into San Francisco. We lived about 45 minutes north of San Francisco. And so the producer, Lee Mendelson, would pick me up from school. And, drive into the city, and he was so nice. He was such a nice man. He actually reminded me of my father, and he was about the same age, and just there were a lot of similarities. And I do remember the recording sessions. It's something that it's interesting because we have little snippets of our childhoods, and it definitely stands out.
Very cool.
It's definitely exciting. Like I said, I'd love to check out that part of the voice acting world, and I ain't gonna lie, I've been looking at some of the stuff that's been coming through. I do get casting calls, and I'm looking
Nice.
at them.
So we'll see Greg on the next movie out there.
Nah, I don't think I'm gonna do the acting. I might do the voices.
You have a nice voice.
Cool.
So, like I said,
actually,
it's just
I think if I remember correctly, weren't we on one of the Story Rocket things at the same time? Did you do Story Rocket?
who, me?
Yeah, you.
No,
Okay. Because I
not
thought it was
me.
you that did it with me and another author. Because your voices sounded the same. It's just
It
a smooth
definitely was
voice.
not me.
Oh, come on, take credit for it.
For real. I'm giving you a compliment and you're not
Hell
even
no.
taking it. Just take it and
But-
run. Just say,
I'm
yeah,
over here
no,
trying
and
to
I was
figure out
there.
what
I
Story
did great.
Rocket is. So, Greg, take credit because I wouldn't have known the difference, man. I don't even know. I'm Googling what this is because I don't know. So, take credit. Greg.
Story
Take credit,
Rocket
okay?
is kind of like LinkedIn for movie producers and authors.
Mm.
Ah,
Well, see, I back in the 90s, and I know I mentioned this on a show before. I actually applied for Disney and sent them a tape and everything, and they sent me a letter back saying we didn't want it professionally done. It was like, what?
really?
I went to the studio and did the voices, did a little skit, and then they sent me one back. No, we just wanted you to hit play and record to see what it sounded like. And it's like, really?
Wow.
You're complaining because you took it a step above.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised at that one.
I think what they wanted to see is if I could change my voice almost instantly. And I
Right.
think that's what they were wanting instead of having the studio. And like I said, that was back in the 90s. So, I mean, things can easily change.
Yeah. Back in the cut and splice days.
Yeah. Back when you had to do the play and record at the same time if you wanted to get your song off the radio.
Yep.
Oh, days that Amy probably doesn't know about.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Amy
That
will
might
have
be a
to
little.
we'll have to
Where if
educate
the
you on
tape
that.
Hold
got
up your
stuck,
sign,
you had
Amy.
to
Hold up your sign.
use a little pencil to rewind the tape because it had gotten stuck and pulled out.
Okay, hold up. Now I remember the cassettes. Okay, I had them in my household. Okay, just like I had VHSs. Okay, I had those. I remember those. I mean, but I grew up in the time of CDs and the iPod, all of those things. But I do remember cassettes. I remember people telling me that they had to hold the mic to the radio to record things. I mean, I remember people telling me those things, okay?
But
Didn't
they were
actually
great
happen.
because during the 80s, that was like one hit wonder decade. So why buy a CD that had or a tape that had like 15 songs and only one of them you liked when you can just get them off the radio? You just had to have the patience to sit there and wait for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And our Google, we used to pull our Google off the shelf back in the
Yes.
day.
Yep.
By the name of Britannica, I believe.
And that's right.
Or
And
Amy's like, I have no
or the
idea.
Dewey Decimal System.
yes.
Card
And we go to the
catalog.
library.
Card catalog. Not this little
Yeah.
put it in the computer. You actually had to go through the little card catalog to find it, pull it out,
Mhm.
and go search in the library. Oh yeah.
I remember those
Microfiche.
days.
Remember Microfiche?
Yeah.
Is that still in
I'm
use?
so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
You know,
I remember MapQuest. That's you printed out your directions, and now I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, I don't know how we knew where we were going. Like, I don't know. I have no
correctly
idea.
challenged.
And then
I
I'm
have
over
never
here-
known where I was going.
Well,
You
I
get out and ask somebody for
Right?
directions.
I mean,
Maps
I'm
are
down for
great
that.
things. They never
But-
change.
I mean, I remember AOL Instant Messenger, okay, and you had a landline and you prayed nobody called while you were on, or if you had a boy call and you prayed no one answered that phone. and it was only you. You know, when you had the landline, I remember that in the long cord, and it would like stretch all the way across the house. It was fantastic.
Or trying to get online on the internet with AOL, you were like to like sprinkle
Yeah,
holy
I
water on
mean-
your computer and pray that it connected.
Yes, and I also remember the light up phones when people called it was clear, but it would have like all the
The gears, gadgets. Yep.
like the LED lights, you know, like the rave lights, and like
I
go
had
off.
one of
and it'd be
those.
Cool. I'm just saying. I remember those, but I was little though.
And the lava lamps.
Mhm.
Oh, hey, you know, those are back in
Time and
style, though,
temperature.
man.
Remember time and temperature on the phone? You could call
Oh,
it
yeah.
time and
And
temperature.
popcorn.
I remember
Remember
time
calling
and
Popcorn,
temperature.
popcorn?
Jiffy Pop.
I remember
I
time
No,
and
I'm
temperature.
talking about popcorn on the phone. You dial popcorn and you get the weather or time or something.
I don't know. We always
No.
just did time and temperature.
Okay, I'm the
Oh.
oldest one around here.
Yeah,
That
might-
our
I used to,
popcorn. Now we didn't have. This is something that freaked out one girl who like absolutely loved the 80s because she was like a teenager in the 90s. She's like, I needed to grow up in the 80s. I said we didn't have microwaves. She goes, okay, maybe not.
Right.
oh, there were
Jiffy Pop.
I'm pretty sure there were microwaves in the 80s. They were just very expensive.
And
Yeah.
towards the end,
Yeah.
But they
towards the
still
end.
make Jiffy Pop today. I mean, my mom used to pick it up from the store when she wanted to, you know, we always loved it because we would just shake it on the eye and we never got tired. And she didn't, you know, she was like, hey, y'all want to do it, you do it, you know? So we would shake it. It's always the best tasting popcorn is Jiffy Pop.
Well, there's Jiffy
stand
Pop,
by them.
and then there's the whole air popper thing, which was really cool because you just put it in there and just watch it all pop in the.
Yeah,
Yep, and you put the little butter on top.
They still have those though. Like I have one.
Yep.
I'm just saying. I have one of those. But hey, the 90s are coming back, okay? Yet again, we're going to recircle back to why the people born in the 90s, specifically 92, are awesome because our fashion is coming back around, okay?
Yeah, we've already blues to the 80s again. But
As long as we don't have those bell bottoms.
We do, man. What are you
I like
talking
bell
about?
bottoms. Not bell bottoms, but like
No.
boot
No,
cut.
no, no,
I
no,
like
no.
the boot
You know
cut.
what?
I had
like
to wear them
parachute
when I served. No.
I didn't like the capri pants and the the little ankle ones because I grew up so fast in my young life that it looked like I had floods. And
I
so
like
I
AC
hate
Hammer
those.
pants. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
I love
I
those. I'm all
remember
about those. I love them. And the
Bermuda
neon
shorts.
colors. I love neon colors. Anyways, I'm sorry. We rabbit holed, Greg. I'm
Bermuda
sorry.
shorts,
Yeah.
jeans, skirts. I loved those.
We're good at rabbit holes.
Rabbit holes are okay. They're fine.
And the other
They're
thing
fine.
that we didn't mention is my first player was the record player and the 8-track.
My
Don't
parents
forget the
had
8-tracks.
8-track. And we used to remember the drive-in movie theaters where the whole family would go in and the kids would watch their movie first and then crash in the back while the parents watched their movie afterwards.
You know,
That was always awesome.
I watched. I was smiling from ear to ear the entire time. I watched Napoleon Dynamite the other day, and
Oh,
just I love that era. That's when you're talking about the long phone cord.
Yes.
I just love it. I loved growing up in that. Well, I grew up more in the 70s, but I just loved it. I loved how people were more
Nicer.
professional. Like they wore uniforms, like the milkman. We had a milkman.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was a simpler time, and I feel like people were just genuinely more happy and nicer. Just in the 90s, like elementary school and stuff, it was nice. I mean, we had the technology was, coming out, like cell phones and all this stuff, like being smaller, but like passing notes in class, like that's how we used to communicate, and like we would go outside and play and like, it just, everyone seemed happier and stuff. And so not that I can say back in the glory days. Okay. I can't say that. So I'm not even going to attempt to do that. But like, it was simpler and people just enjoyed people and being nice to people, I guess is how
we grew up
I have to say,
Greg and I
that-
grew up in the Stranger Things time.
the simplicity I agree
Mhm.
with completely,
Yeah.
because you could go to the grocery store and get detergent without trying to figure out how much Clorox, how much in each container is like you have a whole line of Tide with different things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's like
I know.
back
And
then it
now
was like you get one or two with
Gluten
Clorox or without.
free, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember in study hall holding up the notebooks for the person across the other side of the study hall to do notes and pray that the person didn't see you. The monitor wouldn't see you. we'd be like, okay, where's she at? Okay, go like this. And then as soon as she looked, we pull it back down. That's how we would pass notes and study all because it was so far.
I think the biggest thing for me is the lack of technology. So we would, we would play. After I did my homework, I'd go out and meet my friends, and we'd ride bikes and walk around the neighborhood. I grew up in a very small town, and it was like that. It wasn't in our consciousness, obviously. We didn't know what the future held, but we had no idea. I remember we went to Disneyland when I was a kid, and they had this, Walt Disney, I'm sure he was into the whole future thing. And they had this thing that was like, they said, well, one day you will be able to see the person that you're talking to on the phone. And my mind, I couldn't grasp that, but I know that when I went home and answered the phone the next time, I was like afraid that the person could see me. I didn't know how it was going to happen or when it was going to happen. And now it's like, look at us, well, I'm on my phone, of course, today, but it's like back then we just had no idea. We we played and we read books and we talked and
get lost.
Played football in the streets.
You get lost. Hockey, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. You go home when the street lights came on, and your parents weren't freaked.
It seemed from like everybody talking, right? I mean, I experienced a little of it, but not a whole lot because I grew up with the big technology boom, right? And so I've always kind of had it. But I think for me, just watching movies from back in the day, which are always better than today's movies, I'm just going to throw it out there, was like people enjoying people and wanting to be around people and not, being around people like this or like families talking at the dinner table and not just being on their phones, right? I mean, those are just, small examples and you see them all over the place, right? I mean, I'm guilty of it with my kids. It's just one of those things that happen. But I think, back then it was, people just enjoyed being and hanging out with people instead of, I always say it's two people out there like my bubble of my office, which isn't true because I'm a huge extrovert. Like I do like people. I just, I don't.
Small spurts.
To an extent, I like people, right? But I mean, I don't know. I feel like that technology has done amazing things, but it's also distance original things, and so it's
a lot of people are closer.
And there's always, an up and down to everything and a positive and a negative. And I don't know. Technology is my business, so I love it, but I hate it. It takes a lot of time, away from my kids. But then I don't live at home, so my parents get to see my kids and stuff. So there's always positives, but I do wish that the world was more just, we love everybody, hug me, I'm great. I love those. Or like elbow me at a distance.
It's like more people have Facebook friends than they have real friends. And it's like they're closer to some people on Facebook and online and the different social medias than they are to people that are living in the house with them. When COVID hit, everybody was locked down. It's like they were forced to be with their family. And it's like, I'm sure the first few weeks were torture, but then they're probably like, well, these people aren't that bad.
I was good, but yeah.
Well, the song that comes to mind talking about this is actually the Judds and Grandpa. Tell me about the good old days.
And you had a point there, Allison. I'm sorry, Amy. About let me see if I can spell your name.
There you go. Yeah, now at least she said it. Okay, I'm pretty sure she spelled my name. Okay, I'm pretty sure. Allison is a name.
Aimee.
Yeah, nailed it. She nailed it, Greg. So you still are the ringleader in that one, okay? Because she can spell my name.
She's a guest. She's a guest, though. She gets forgiven.
Right, and I can't.
It was a pretty name.
Well, I can't see because, I have to put my reading glasses on, and you do not want to see me put my reading glasses on right now. Well, maybe you do, but it's not pretty. So, when you said about the movies were better back then, I mean, obviously, okay, I got it now. We've got some great technology in our movies, and all three of my kids work in the visual effects industry. But back then, I mean, Willy Wonka and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And
Mhm.
I mean, just, we just had some amazing movies. And of course, like The Godfather and those adult movies that we had back then were just, I just get so nostalgic when I see old movies and old TV shows from back then, because, it irritates some people. They're like, oh, it's more grainy or fuzzy or whatever, but I love it. I love the music. I love the dramatic music. I love the way they dress and the way they talk. It's just, yeah.
I'm all
You
about
know,
that.
you know you're old when your music that you grew up with has hit the oldies station. So
Right.
that's when you
listen to
know you've
country legends.
officially hit a old stage.
Like I said, I listen to country legends, so I'm good.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
Oh, I do too.
There
I love
we
it.
go. Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now-
Give me some 70s, 80s, 90s country. I'm happy.
Now there is one question I have to ask.
Yes.
And every time in the Charlie Brown show, when Snoopy gave Lucy a kiss, she'd always be screaming, yuck, 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 yuck. Are you that way since
Get
you
the
have
idea.
cats?
Oh, isn't that funny? I'm germphobic, yes. And when COVID hit, I said I don't get it. I used hand sanitizer every day. I shook hands with people. I touched doorknobs, in my job, working in radio as a salesperson, and I always had hand sanitizer with me. And I've been germphobic for many, many, many years, probably about 45 years. So, yeah, get the hot water, get the iodine, get the disinfectant.
That's awesome.
I think that was one question that a lot of people had that no one asked, but I'm going to ask it.
There you go.
But I know we're coming to an end, and I believe we actually have a guest coming up next Tuesday. Is it Tuesday we have the guest, or is it Thursday?
I will tell
Friday?
you in a moment.
I
Tuesday
never
is Tom McKee.
Okay, Tom McKee on Tuesday
at 11.
At 11, and then Saipacon on Friday.
Friday at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
Friday at 8, not 6. At 8.
Everybody know at 8 o'clock, because they are actually coming to Houston to do some advertisement, so they want to be able to get settled into where they're staying before jumping on the show. So yes, we changed the time on Friday to 8 p.m. It's going to be a late show, but it's going to be a good one.
And then we have Daniel Sandoval on the 21st at 6.
Correct.
And then Albie Robles said for Amy's benefit on Saturday the 29th at 11.
Now that reminds me, I need to go get that bourbon. That reminds
and
me.
he is actually going to be at San Angelo.
Oh yay!
So
Amy's going to give him a present of a robe. Is that what we're doing?
What? No, I'm just going to go get the bourbon that he told me to try. So when he comes on, at least I have tried it. I'm going to have clothes on that show. Oh my goodness, that went crazy.
I did not say that.
Oh my God.
Said his name is Albie Robles.
And this is why I need to take ibuprofen 800.
Well, yeah, that my gosh. I mean, I just mentioned the alcohol. Like, I don't know where that went, but I'm gonna mute myself.
Back in the day, we didn't have ibuprofen. Remember?
Yep.
Tylenol,
and then they came out with Excedrin.
Excedrin's dangerous stuff. That's got a lot of caffeine in it.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful with that stuff. People would get addicted to it.
But definitely, and one thing that we will talk about on Tuesday before we get started is I did watch the second episode of the Book of Boba Fett, and I was a lot happier with the second episode.
Oh, good.
So they answered a lot of the questions. They should have just put it all in one and just did an hour and a half show instead of breaking a 30-minute and then 51-minute. That's my only complaint so far, is they should have put those two shows together.
I'll just stick with my Yellowstone in 1883.
But anyway, everyone, it's been great. And we want to thank Melanie for being on our show. And can't wait to actually meet you at one of these conventions.
Well, you'll have to come by.
I don't think I'm going to Albuquerque though.
No, I mean, one of the Texas ones.
Definitely. Anyway, everyone have a great weekend, and we will catch y'all on Tuesday. Until then,